So yesterday we got the really big news that Ford is returning to supercars, and I think it's fair to say that this is extremely good news for the future of the category. So just in case you're a supercars fan who's been living under a rock over the last 24 hours, yesterday Ford Australia announced that it was back in supercars and helping to homologate the 2018 Ford Mustang, and they're going to make it a supercar body shell for next year. It's going to replace the aging FGX, which is in its fourth year and hasn't been produced in Australia since sometime in 2016. And I think, regardless if you are a Ford or a Holden fan, you need to be rejoicing at this news, because this means, at least for the foreseeable future, supercars, which had seemed like it had been lacking in some direction with nobody joining due to the new Gen 2 regulations, but for the foreseeable future, we now have Ford and Holden with V8 engines committed to this category, and I think the majority of fans really don't want anything more than that. I in fact, was beginning to think that supercars... I thought, unfortunately, that the category as it was beginning to fade out. We only had one manufacturer committed beyond next year. We thought they were going to switch to a V6. But I think the news now that we have Ford and Holden V8s for next year and the foreseeable future is some of the most important news in the category in a long time. We don't have Nissan committed to the category yet, but judging by the way they've been performing these last few years, I don't see Nissan recommitting to the sport. They want to win, and they've only gained, I think, 2 wins since their return in 2013, and one of them was with special fuel. So I don't see them staying on, but as long... The main crux of this sport for the last 20 years has been the Ford-Holden rivalry, and we now have that confirmed to stay with V8s. And I was beginning to think that supercars should switch to the GT3 formula, so we could see Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, all of those sorts of premium manufacturers out there in exciting cars. But then that's not really sort of relatable to the mass public. Like, a lot of people can't just go out and buy a McLaren, which is why supercars has been so good, because in the past you've been able to go out and buy a V8 Commodore or a V8 Falcon, and unfortunately the current Commodore doesn't have a V8 element, which is also what I'd like to see now. I'd like to see, as a rival to the Ford Mustang, I'd like to see Holden or General Motors introduce the Chevy Camaro. I think that would be a great match for the category. Unfortunately, not Australian-made Ford and GM products, but still along the lines of what we want to see. I don't think anyone... I can't speak for everyone, but I don't know if everyone is a fan of the ZB Commodore, due to the fact that it's not really a Commodore. It's a Vauxhall Insignia from the UK, pretty much an Opel, as people like to say. But overall, this is still fantastic news for the category. So that's pretty much been my reaction to the Ford news. I want to know what your thoughts are. I personally think that the fact that we now have Ford and Holden V8 committed to this category for the foreseeable future is just fantastic news. As long as they can keep the parity, as long as the Mustang and the ZB Commodore don't have any advantages, I'm sure they'll make sure. But Ford and Holden V8s in this category next year, foreseeable future, I don't see anything wrong with that. So until next time, I'll be covering the Phillip Island round this weekend and every Supercars round for the rest of the year. So until then, I'll catch you later.